Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys. Sometimes I get real lucky, and I convince some of my dearest friends to come on the podcast. Like, these are real life, going to their wedding friends, people that I met as clients and we became good friends. And today I happen to have one of my favorites. She is an office that I have consulted, that Tiffany's consulted. She has listened to our advice. She's not listened to our advice. She makes me laugh so hard. And she's starting a really cool, she's working with pediatrics at Airways. She's actually speaking in October. So I am super jazzed for you guys to get to know, to meet, to learn from the one and only Dr. Jasmine Elmore. How are you today, Jasmine?
Hey, Kiera, I'm wonderful. That intro was just, I don't know who that was you just mentioned, but I'll take it. But no, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So you guys on the podcast, you're listening to it, but Jasmine and I are actually recording via Zoom right now. And I'm just watching her, waiting for her to start giggling because honestly, every time I speak with Jasmine, it is a good time. It is a laugh. We met at my very first DSI summit. I was so scared and Jasmine was so scared too. And I think maybe 2 months later, if that, I was out in your practice that you had just bought. You were a brand new owner. So kind of talk us through, like give us a little bit of your bio, how you got into dentistry. Just take the way, go wherever you have a desire to go right now, Jasmine.
Oh, wow. Let's see. Well, yeah, we'll focus on Kiera. This is your show. You're amazing. I died to get on here and brag about you. And she didn't pay me to say that. So, but no, you're amazing. So yeah, when we first met, you were at Mark's big conference. I can't think of the DSI.
The DSI Summit.
DSI Summit.
I think it was even in San Diego. Wasn't it San Diego?
It was in San Diego. I was fresh off of shoulder surgery, and I don't know if I was in a sling at that point, but I was like in rehab. I was not well, but I was excited to be there. Your presentation was amazing. You sold me with the mixing of the cookies, cookie batter, was it?
Okay, so just for all of you listening, I had met Mark literally 3 months before this event. I have no clue what DSI Summit even involves. I just know I'm going to do something. So I made up, like I'm embarrassed I did it. Jasmine came to this event where I was trying to talk about how we've got to like be prepared, I think was like the message. And in an office, if we're proactive versus reactive. So I think it was using route slips and checking through your day and doing morning huddles, I think was what I looped it to. But I literally made cookies from a recipe and I was out of control. Like I remember 3 girls on the front row. I had them pull out chocolate chips from this like crazy bag. I threw in real eggs into I didn't even crack the eggs. I just threw the eggs in the bowl. I had eggs on my heels. Like that egg went everywhere. There was flour everywhere. I didn't measure anything. I put food coloring in to make the brown sugar. It was a hot mess.
But you know what resonated with me is that hot mess seemed exactly like the office I just left before my shoulder surgery. And I thought, I cannot bring this hot mess into this new office that I just bought. I haven't even gotten there yet. But that example it just spoke to me. It spoke to my soul. And so it was perfect. And then I walked up to you and I was so nervous to talk to this celebrity, speaking at this event.
I was 3 months on the job,
guys. Yeah, and you're just a big goofball. And I was a big goofball. So, we're super amazing friends. But yeah, no, you came to my practice. Literally, I hadn't even had it for a week when you came out to the practice. It's a brand new project. And we probably can't even share all the wild stories from me locking my keys in the office to us
We
nailing
sat on a
in.
bench. We sat on the curb for 45 minutes waiting for somebody to come get us. We nailed in a whiteboard with a screwdriver and no level because I was like, you need to track your production. I'll let you share about the cotton roll if you so desire to share on that one.
Oh man, no, I'm gonna have to skip the cotton rolls too much for the podcast listeners today. But while once in a career, life-changing stuff was going down in this week, and you were there to settle me out and give me a lot of tips about production and what that is, how to track your practice, how to make sure your staff is doing what they're supposed to do, especially in a takeover of a practice that you've owned for a week. So it was nerve-wrackingly exciting to have you there, but we increased our production from the week before from that week by like 30%. So,
Fantastic.
I mean, I was feeling myself when you left there,
Good. Well, and I love that
awesome.
because so many practices ask, like, when should we bring in the dental A team, especially when you're buying a practice? And I think the answer depends on the owner. But Jasmine, I know for you, to that cookie example, so many offices feel like that hot mess, or they're coming in and you know how to do the dentistry. Jasmine, you're a phenomenal pedo doctor. Like, I loved watching your exams. I loved watching you as a doctor. I loved that. And I could tell you had the clinical skills, but often doctors are lacking that managerial side, or like, I remember you asked me, like, I don't even know how to bill this stuff. Like, I hope they're billing and we're making money. I don't even know how that works. And so realizing to bring in the team to help you with that. But the reality is, I think it comes in waves. And I know I came out to see you a few times, and then Tiffany just recently was in your practice as well. And so go ahead, share a little bit about those experiences and what it was like being on your side of the table, because I know what it was like to be on my side of the table.
Yeah. Well, first I'll say that Tiffany killed it. So we don't need you to ever come back again. Let's just
Perfect.
throw
That's
that
good.
out there.
Tiff's incredible. I agree. Tiffany is so good.
She's coming to my new office in the next couple months, and nobody needs Kiera. But
hey,
no,
that's
but
fine.
she was amazing.
That's good. I'll just stay on the podcast and podcast with you.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, the staff didn't want her to leave. She was amazing. But I mean, for me as a first-time practice owner, my background at that point was leaving a practice that was about 95% Medicaid, super, busy. And we make our production from volume. And so leaving that practice and basically assuming the same style practice, the clinical piece I wasn't worried about. It was there's this staff that's new to me. I'm their boss now. They don't know me. How are they going to perform well? Even if that's not a barrier, just in general, how do they perform well? How do we become efficient? How do we not drive ourselves crazy? And, how do we keep this ship afloat? And now that I own this new practice, that's the total opposite. That's a fee-for-service Airway practice. It's really honestly the same thing. It's how do we become efficient? How do we pot people, as we say, pot them like plants? How do we put them in positions to be successful and play off their strengths? And so really as the owner, as the practitioner, even as an associate, if you're buying into a practice, when do you really have time to assess the front desk when you're in the back? Or if you're at the front, how can you assess the back? So you need that non-biased source to come in, tell you the truth right to your face. Look, you suck right now, but that's okay. We're gonna. This is not something we don't need to burn it to the ground and start over. It's bad, but we can fix it. You really do need that real but friendly approach that I think Dental A Team has. Sometimes consultants are way too cold, or trying to make your practice like the other practice when each practice has to be unique and different. And so, I mean, for me, Dental A Team needs to be there the week that you buy it. But I mean, I'm a little different. I think that, when I coached basketball, when I did other things in my life that weren't dental, I didn't just want to be average or slightly above average. I wanted to be elite. And I feel like when you get, average or affordable consultants sometimes, or you use factors that don't line up with your values, you get average results. So for me, when I met you and I saw that cookie mess going on, I was like, all right, I got to figure out how much this is going to cost. They'll work with me. I had faith. They'll work with me. We'll figure it out. And I got to get them in here because I need an elite team to help me get elite results. And that's pretty much all it boils down to. You get out what you put in. And so, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on it. You may think differently, but I mean, you gotta, if you want to be the best, you gotta roll with the best.
Mm.
So that's how I saw it. So
I love that,
I got
Jasmine.
lucky.
Well, I appreciate that because at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of other consulting companies and myself included when I was in a practice. What we built the dental A team around is what we wished we would have had to make us the best. Like, I wish I would have had somebody come in and give me half the tools that I know now. I will tell you guys today, the consultant I am today is nowhere near the office manager I was several years ago. I didn't know probably 80% of the things I know now. Yes, I knew how to be an office manager with massive air quotes, or so I thought. But like, I wish I would have had a quick playbook of how do I run KPIs? What is a KPI? How do I track production? How do I get my team on board? How do I have follow up on my recare? What are the best services to use of outsourcing that really are the most reputable companies that I don't have to go vet myself? And so with the Dental A team, and I appreciate your testimonial and your experience working with us, the goal and the process behind our business is always like, how can we make offices A teams for who they are? Not every A team looks the same. Just like you said with basketball, let's go back to that. Not every team looks the same, but working together, giving them the tools and resources for that team specifically that we wished we would have had is really what we try to do to make it not be that hot mess of a cookie recipe, but actually have a clean cut, like, here are the ingredients, here are the processes to get. One of my favorite quotes to tie this is like, to get magic. And Walt Disney said, it's the systems behind the scenes. So we get predictable magic with the systems behind the scenes. And I feel that that's like the mantra of Dental A team, is how to help offices get predictable magic in their practices through the systems behind the scenes. So thank you for that. I love that you just were gutsy enough to be like, how do I do it? And I do love that we travel to your practice. I mean, Jasmine, I could have coached you over the phone, but gosh, the things I saw, I don't know on day 1, 2, 3 of your practice, you would have even known half the things I saw outside because you didn't even know that that was an issue or something that could be done. It was more like, oh, okay, I didn't even know that was a thing to look at when you started owning your practice.
Well, piggybacking off of that, because in the practice again, a few weeks, a lot of times what happens, at least in all the practices that I've been involved in, somebody just needs to get it done, and that's the one thing. I've had other consultants come in upon recommendations from friends, and they're all great. Some of them are cheerleaders. You need a cheerleader, of course. You need someone who can help you through that I don't know, that moment where your practice is suffering. You don't want to admit it. You need help. You don't know if you can afford it. But if you don't get it, it's one of those things where we magically wish things can go away. You mentioned magic. It's one of the
Right.
things we have the hardest time with. We see a problem and we just imagine it's going to go away. And it's not going to go away. So you do need your consultant to kind of be a friend and support you. But at the same time, you need somebody who understands business and who can make you money. And so you guys are a good blend of both. Actually, the only blend that I found that works for me. This really sounds like a paid advertisement. I swear it's not, but I just have to tell the truth.
I didn't pay her at all, nor did I discount her visit. I probably should have after this.
Kiera did not discount me. We are still arguing behind the scenes about that. But no, I think definitely bringing that mix of getting real. It's difficult to make the decision to have somebody to come into your practice. It's like having somebody come into your master closet, or the plumber was just here 30 minutes before this. And I was like, I got to clean the whole bathroom so he doesn't think I'm a mess. I mean, it's like, you feel like you have to kind of get your stuff in order before somebody judges you, or, there's a lot of emotions and things that we don't like to admit we have by having somebody come in for the purposes of what Dental A team would come in to do. But, having you come into the practice is huge. You can't do this stuff. I'm sorry. You just can't do it on Zoom. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's literally, I remember when you first came in, you were like, oh, we need checklists. Another consultant had said the same thing. But what she didn't do was grab her computer, sit down with my teammate, and make the checklist right there, print it, laminate it, not just hand it, make sure it worked. People don't do that. They give you tips, tricks, hacks. You take the hack, you leave. They don't give you tips, tricks, hacks, moment to moment, walk you through it, make sure it works before then implementing it in place. Nobody does that. No one else does that. Somebody else finds another team that does that. You reach out to me and you know where to find me and let me know. But I mean, that's really what separates you guys from everybody else. It's that moment to moment implementation, making sure that it works before you even take it to the doctor owner to say, hey, Jasmine, I got this idea. It's not an idea. It's, hey, there was this process I thought about. We tried it 12 times. It worked out 10. Hey, your process was going 3 out of 12. So we'll take that as a success and build on it. You know, this is a start and we'll see where it goes. But that's what I'm the most impressed by, is the fact that you sit there, you learn what's going on, and you immediately make the change right then and there. So when you leave the office in 3 days, the changes feel like they've been going on for 3 months, because it's not this passive thing. It's an active action thing. I've never seen anything like it. And it's incredible. The team almost feels like, man, I had an idea, or I never saw that, or I wanted to do that, but I didn't have time in my day to do it. So now you're there implementing it, getting it done, showing them how it works, all at that same time. And they have the confidence to move forward with it, because it's not just me bringing an idea they haven't tried out. It's you bringing an idea, trying it out with them, watching them succeed and fail with it, and implementing it.
Gosh, that was like, I feel like you summed up what we've tried to do for so long in such an eloquent way. And I appreciate that so much. And as you were saying it, I'm like, yes, because I wanted it to feel like, I've always imagined if I brought somebody in with that trepidation. And also, by the way, offices, when you're thinking about bringing us in, please don't make your practice perfect. I've had offices buy fish before we showed up. I've had them like put in new decorations. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm Kiera Dent from the block. Like, don't stress. I'm not judging you. We're here just to make your life easier and better. We will give you the honest feedback. We're not going to sugarcoat it, but I think we bring it in a very loving, positive, empowered way. But I've always thought, when I come into an office, like, what do I wish would happen in my house or in my practice? And I'm like, I want fairies to come in and like clean up my house and deliver this like perfect plan of how to make dinner, but dinner's already ready to go. And here's the recipes for the next 12 weeks. Like, that's what I would love. So I feel like that's what we try really hard to do in offices, is like you said, I hate having more things on my to-do list after someone comes and visits. I'd much rather you just get it done. Don't talk to me about it. And so that's what we try hard to do. And it was funny. Tiff said when she went to your practice, which, high five, I think it's been, maybe a year, 2 years since I've been out there. But she said, I could tell Kiera's been here. There are still checklists in place. They're laminated. I thought, good. Like, Jasmine's still using those. But that is the truth. Like, we really pride ourselves that when we come into your practice, we don't leave you with a tip or an idea. It's a true system that we've tried, that we've tested. And now your job is to maintain it, and we'll check in with you for the next few weeks and tweak it as we go. So I love that you brought that up, and I was like, oh, good. We're like the little dental A-team fairies that come around. We're like, but we don't just do it for you. We show you how to do it so you can continue to do it without us.
Yeah. And the key thing though too is, and I don't know if you're the host. This is my first podcast, so I'm trying to be good here.
I'm so proud of you, Dr. Elmore in the house.
But no, what you said that I thought about was, you know, I've had several doctors to come in and out of my practice. And I was actually talking to a very well-established doc in my area who I respect, who since COVID has lost a practitioner, who's lost several assistants. You know, these things happen and they're outside of our control. They're very unfortunate. We build these bonds with people and like some pandemic happens. If you have the right systems in place, not saying you won't lose money here or there, not saying you won't feel some of the negative effects, but if you have the right systems in place, you can plug people in, shift people around. When you talk about de-stressing yourself, that is a huge, most people have systems that work with the people that are there. And when those people leave, it burns to the ground. Not with the way you guys set it up. And you're the first person actually to bring that to my attention. You got to have systems. The reason Chick-fil-A works, the reason Ruth Chris works, the reason that Ritz-Carlton works, Disney works, they have a system in place. Not that their Michael Jordan isn't amazing, but if he tears his ACL and he's out and the product stinks, nobody's going to sit in the stands. You've got to find a way to get a system that's in place where you can plug and play people, and no, it won't be your ideal, but you still got to do a little bit better than normal so you can meet those key performance indicators. So the system is like, I don't know. It sucks implementing systems.
It does. It's so hard.
Sucks. It is like not fun. So to have somebody come in to help you do it and then implement it and make sure it works. They don't leave before they make sure it works, and then check in every week, every 2 weeks. Hey guys, what's going on? Have you fallen off of your task? What's going on? Here are the things I'm thinking might be falling off around this time. Check in to make sure they aren't. That's the other piece. So when you leave, it's still like, hey Jasmine, how's it going? We were going to implement 1, 2, and 3 things. Did you implement them? How's it going? Do you need support? And so it's almost like, oh yeah, I thought I was going to sweep that under the rug. Nope. So yeah,
Yes.
that's helpful too.
Hello, Dental Team listeners. I am so excited because we have truly been fortunate and blessed to work with so many incredible practices across the nation and globe. We have what is called our Platinum practice, and that is super popular. And this quarter, we are only bringing in 3 new Platinum practices. This is an area that is going to grow you exponentially. So give us a call. We only have limited space. I said only 3 this quarter due to popularity and demand. So let's get you in as a Platinum practice this quarter.
I just appreciate that so much because one, it's nice to hear. Again, we're planning to talk like, yes, I know you love the Dental Team. You're one of my biggest fans. You will give me the most glowing reviews, but it's fun. We've never taken the time to dive in. Like I've never asked you, hey, Jasmine, what was that like on your side? And so to hear that you felt, and I mean, we're talking, gosh, 3 years in
3
now?
years ago.
Yeah. To hear that those systems are still in place. And I know you've had turnover in your practice. I know you've changed entire teams, and yet the systems still remain. And I think that, to me, that's a true test of a system. And so I think for you offices out there, I was just listening to a book this morning by Mike Michalowicz. If I said his name wrong, I apologize. He's the Profit First author. And his book that I'm reading right now is called Fix That Next, or Fix This Next. And he talked about how he had a personal assistant who grew to manage his whole company. And he said one day she wasn't there and almost the entire business fell apart. And he was like, hey, you got to get out of here. And so he actually implemented, and it's still mulling in my brain. We'll see. Hang on, Dental Team family. We'll see if I implement this or not. But he said he implements a 4-week vacation for all team members every year. And he said he wanted to do that so he could see the systems that are breaking. It would force people to actually create systems versus dependencies. And I've thought about that a lot, because if we come to your practice and we create a dependency on a person versus a system, I remember Tiffany, she called me. We were talking about your practice when she was out there a couple weeks ago. And we both thought, hey, if these people aren't in place later, what are we going to do to make sure that the accountability, the leadership back to you, Jasmine, stays regardless of who's there? And that's always what we're thinking of in the back of our mind. And so for you office managers, doctors that are listening, when you're putting in systems, do you think in the back of your mind that you bring to the forefront is, if this person wasn't here, or if my entire team turned over, what are the holes within this? How can we make this continue to function with or without me as the doctor being there, the office manager being there, the key team members being there? Because I think we often live in this fantasy land that we're not going to lose team members, or we're not going to have turnover. And so it's really trying to bulletproof your practice on a continual basis with those systems. So nice action item for you guys out there. Jasmine, I'm going to pivot gears because I want you to brag and talk like you and I were supposed to go on a trip to Australia and I bailed on you, but you went to the Gold Coast many times. You've had extensive training in MyoBrace and Airways. It's something that I feel is new to the dental world, especially for pediatric practices. Like, just kind of walk us through a little bit about your new passion. You have a new business built around it. Kind of walk us through this. I see the huge smile coming on. I know you're excited about this. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin, I guess, then with my own story of how I even got there. So, I was in residency and just rocking out. I mean, you're a super type A person. You know how that goes. And, I just had this nagging shoulder problem that wouldn't go away. And I went to some amazing PTs. We have luxuries afforded to us, in this profession. And none of it was really working, Kiera. Like
I remember your PT office, actually, as you just said that.
They were amazing PTs. They were working on NFL and NBA athletes. My uncle used to tease me all the time because I'm getting the same therapy as $1 million athlete. And it was great, but it wasn't really working for me. So a friend recommended me to a PT. And I said, Mike, my shoulder's really bothering me. And he's like, so tell me about your teeth. And I'm like, what do my teeth have to do with my shoulder? This guy's insane. and he's like, well, tell me about your posture. Tell me about the way you breathe. And Kiera, I thought he bumped his head. I thought he was insane. Like, I don't know what kind of special meds this guy was on, but listen, stick to my shoulder, buddy. I'm the dentist. You know that. I know teeth. You don't. Stick to the shoulder was kind of like what I thought back then.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, he actually had helped resolve an ankle injury I had when I slipped in the shower. And so I trusted him enough to give him the benefit of the doubt to listen to him, talk about foolishness for about 45 minutes. And at the end of that talk, it just stayed in my head. I met a couple other people during the time I met you and Mark during that year. And I found out that this guy was telling the truth, that there was a connection between our mouths, our faces, how underdeveloped they are, when we mouth breathe, what happens when we dysfunction, and how it impacts our whole body. And then I realized that I was really struggling to sleep at night, struggling with things that I just, put off and try to be superwoman about. But at the end of the day, they really were holding me back from really reaching my full potential in life and doing the things I really, really wanted to do. I had this, kick butt. I don't know if I can curse in this podcast, but kick butt practice and, and dental A team and all these successes. But, I didn't have the energy to vacation. On the vacations, I was sleeping and I really was suffering. I just wasn't really taking a good look at what was going on behind the scenes with myself. And so as I started uncovering...
Jasmine, I want to interrupt real quick I think so many of us are that way. As you were saying that, I'm like, oh, guilty. Like there's the famous quote that says we use our health to gain our wealth, and then we use our wealth to repair our health. But I love when you just point that out. And I'm sure so many people listening can say, like, yes, we're burning the candle both ends. We've got these incredible practices, but yet we're exhausted. I can't tell you how many trips I've gone on vacation and I've slept the entire time because I'm just exhausted. So continue on. Yeah. I just wanted to let you know you're not alone. I'm sure there's lots listening that are in your same boat.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a real thing. I talk to people about it all the time in our profession. And, at what point is it more than just like, I'm tired? At what point is it that like there's something else going on below the surface? And so I thought back to my childhood as I gained more knowledge and skills. People will give them my info to reach out to me and I can share more of that personal story. But I struggled with GI stuff. I struggled with, getting a cold every season, and I slept with my mouth open. And of course it was cute and I drooled and yeah, it was cute. But now I realize that a lot of those things were dysfunctional and, led to some of the issues that I'm kind of dealing with now. And so it wasn't really a big deal for me. I'll just be honest. But as I started mentioning little small things in my practice, parents were like, wait a minute, can you fix this now? Why would I wait until my child is a 32-year-old sufferer like you? I want to fix it now at 3. Right. And I thought, wow, people actually want to resolve problems in advance. I didn't think that people really would in big volumes. I thought people would go, oh yeah, I'll wait. They'll age out of it. They'll grow out of it. But as I started educating myself and others that, hey, a lot of these problems we start with as kids, as infants. We start with these problems where we have trouble breastfeeding or trouble eating with textures, and we can't swallow pills in our teenage years, and all these little kind of, GI gut problems, and we're gluten sensitive, and all these little things that seem unrelated. And then now we know that, hey, the body's one system. Our head's attached to our neck, is attached to our spine, is attached to our waist and our knee and our ankle. And it's all one thing. Just because one part of the body is screaming and shouting, hey, it's me, that's usually not the part that's really bothering you. So that just kind of got me thinking and looking and searching. And it's much more complicated than we have time for in this podcast. But parents really wanted it. They wanted to know, like, hey, you say you have a tongue tie. You say there's a lot of effort to make your words sound good for Kiera in this podcast right now. How do I help my 5-year-old with that now so that they don't have to struggle and work and move their face in a particular way and deal with neck pain and all these things to compensate to live? Mm-hmm. How do they not just survive? How does my kid thrive? How do we reach our full potential of where we're meant to be? Our genes are not our destiny. We have a lot of environmental things that kind of get in the way. How can we remove those things holistically and naturally to have better outcomes? So when parents started asking me those questions, even in my Medicaid practice, I thought, wow, I'm really on to something here for all, access to all, and in both of my practices, the one that's fee for service and the one that's 95% Medicaid. So yeah, the Airway's the way.
The Airway's the way. Okay, so I love this. And, I had a guest on here, Brielle Renz. If you guys missed that, she talked about tongue and lip ties. She's a general dentist who does a lot of tongue and lip ties. But Jasmine, what exactly, because I know you're speaking on October 2nd, I think is what you mentioned, You're actually doing an O2 conference. So kind of walk us through a little bit more, like, how does that look for dentists? Because there's a lot of pedo offices that we consult. I don't know what it is. We have a pedo crew. Ped doctors, we love you. We love helping your practices. We love our pedo crew. But kind of how does that incorporate? And is that more just for pedo? Is it more for general? Like, what exactly does this mean with the mile brace and Airway? Like, walk us through that. And what are you going to be speaking on in October as well?
Yeah, so great questions,
That was a
Kiera. Of
lot of
course, you give me a
questions.
really loaded question with 3 minutes to explain it all. But Airway is something that is never too early to get started and talking about the conversation about it. I have a 67-year-old in my practice right now. And then I also have an 11-month-old I'm seeing tomorrow. So, it's really something that as soon as we see the problem, it doesn't matter if we're 2 days on this earth or 2 days left on the earth, it's time for us to go ahead and figure out what is going on and resolve the issues. It's almost like if you knew there was this thing that would shorten your life by 10 years or make you have to work 4 times harder in your life that you could just jump in and prevent, you'd prevent it. You'd jump in and go, let me just remove this thing so I don't have to work 4 times as hard. I mean, I could work 4 times harder, but why? We just
Right.
talked about having an efficient office. Why would you have an inefficient body? It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, for the kids, I mean, a lot of the red flags are around sleep, and people have misconceptions and myths about sleep, that sleep is supposed to be wild child, Tasmanian devil, arm here, leg here, covers on the floor, kicking and moving. And that's just not normal, cocking your head back, mouth open. It's a struggle for breath. Those things aren't normal. So I really focus more on the sleep than I do necessarily on the lip and tongues because it's hard for parents to see those things. It becomes almost like a subjective debate. Well, I just went to a pediatrician who told me I wasn't tied. And for me, we focus on structure, function, and behavior. So for me, a tie by itself means nothing. It's how we function and behave with it. So we in our practice look at structure, function, and behavior, the hardware, the software, and the operating system of the body. And so for kids, it's about, okay, yeah, they have asthma. Okay, they have tonsils that are big. Okay, we have eczema. Okay, we have gut problems. Okay, we're not sleeping. Okay, we're grinding our teeth. Oh, we have a lip tie. It's like all of these things together, not one thing individually, kind of points to a problem. And then for my adults, we think that, oh, I'm older. I can't make any changes in life. And we know that now not to be true. If we can improve our health by 40%, I mean, who wouldn't take that? We want to improve our quality of life. Dentistry, dentists, hygienists, dental assistants, this forward head posture and poor posture we have really adds to the problem. So we are those same airway kids. Most of us are those airway adults. And we make do. We spend the money on our kids. We put the money into our practices. We put the time and energy elsewhere. But then we drive in the habits at work and we end up with problems too. So we don't want to ignore ourselves either. If we can't take care of ourselves, then, we can't really be of service to the people who depend on us. So it's really for all ages, Kiera. Mile Brace is excellent. They have done such a great job marketing.
Can you explain okay, I got it. Like I am, because I'm also thinking there's a sleep apnea that's going on. And so this is me literally needing to be educated over here. So don't worry, guys, Kiera Dent. But how do you solve those problems? Because I'm thinking I still drool as an adult. I literally fell asleep during a movie the other night on Jason's arm, and Jason woke me up because he thought it was a spider on his arm, and it wasn't a spider. It was definitely just my drool going down his arm, and it scared him to death. Disgusting and so ridiculous. So I was like, oh, well, check. So what are some of the solutions? How do you solve these problems in kids or adults? I'm sure it's probably different between the two. And is it tied to something similar to sleep apnea and those appliances?
Yeah, I mean, Kiera, you talk to 10 people, you're going to get 10 different opinions. So I'm going to preface that by saying, here's my thoughts on it.
That's okay. You're the expert today. You're the expert who's done a lot of training. And I'm asking you because I'm curious. And working at the dental college, I found that no dentist will ever give me the same treatment plan. So whatever. It's just do your own thing, everybody.
Well, cool. I mean, we're in our offices, we're family. So I'll just, give you the real. So to me, it all begins and ends with the tongue.
Okay.
The tongue is like the centerpiece of it all. It protects our airway. It helps us speak. It helps us eat. The speaking and eating, I mean, we can go our entire lives without speaking. So I scratch that out as an emergency for me. And then eating, I mean, we make do, right? Like, okay, if we have to eat soup for 20 years, who really cares? I mean, people care, but hey, for survival, it doesn't matter. But breathing moment to moment is the one thing we can't get around. And so when the tongue is dysfunctional, when the tongue hangs low, and usually that's because, Kiera, we eat baby food. We don't chew anymore. We don't chew any of our food. Everything's on the go, yogurt, smoothie, over processed, convenient. And so we don't chew. And so we don't build out our structures in that first 1,000 days of life. And so we end up with this small face. And to correct it, we implement surgeries and Botox and contouring of noses and lips with makeup and all these things to compensate for the fact that our face just looks off. It just looks, I can't point it out, but I'm going to, put Botox in my lips to give me fuller lips. Well, if we had a bigger structure under there, the lips would look more full. So I think people are aware that things are smaller. And unfortunately, the face sits on this thing called the neck, and the neck holds this thing called the airway, and it gets back to the breath. So breathing is more important than anything else in my book. And so the tongue, it gets in the way of breathing. So during the day, we can compensate. We have our mouth open. We talk a lot, talk faster, whatever we have to do to have our bodies balance out our dysfunctions in breathing. But at nighttime, we can't make those same compensations. So our tongue starts to drift into the back of the throat. So when you're talking about some type of sleep disorder, sleep apnea, that's like at the end of the road. My mentor, Barry Rayfield, one of the best in this country, calls that roadkill. So if we ignore the roadkill, those of us who are pre-apneic, you'll see mouth open, you'll see drooling, you'll see snoring loudly, you'll see a struggle to breathe. You'll see these things, and then usually it's the tongue. The tongue is in the way. We need to get the tongue out of the way. And we can do that by strengthening it, training it with myofunctional therapy, and then giving it somewhere to live. Because you can strengthen the tongue, but if it doesn't have somewhere to live, then you almost feel like when you talk, your tongue's too big for your mouth. That's a common complaint. I kept hearing people say in my practice all the time, my tongue feels too big for my mouth. My tongue feels too big for my mouth. Like, why would a tongue be too big for the mouth? Well, if the mouth is small, because it develops small, because our tongue's in the wrong position, then the tongue's almost living in a space that's too small. The car's too big for the garage. There's a great book, 6-Foot Tiger, 3-Foot Cage, about the similar thing about this tongue. It's like the airway secret. It's the gateway to the airway. So for me, it starts and begins with the tongue. And they've got cool things you can do for free, Kiera. Google is our information source. Mewing is really popular. There are a lot of different tongue exercises and things that can be done to strengthen the tongue, but really getting to an airway provider who knows what they're looking at, is looking at more than just sleep apnea, but actually looking at dysfunctional sleep, disturbed sleep, the effort required for us to breathe and survive. That's the kind of provider you're looking for that can give you a real opinion of what's going on. And we do holistic things. We don't promote surgery in my practice. Everything is holistic. And that's just how we get down at my office. But I mean, there's so many ways to resolve the problem, but as long as the tongue keeps sliding to the back of the airway, the body's going to say, hey, get this thing out of the airway and, wake you up, go to the bathroom, whatever it's got to do, speed your heart rate up, make you have night sweats, whatever it's got to do to get you to wake up to say, hey, this isn't right. Something's in here. This needs to move. And what happens with sleep apnea over the time is the body's just so used to that it stops waking you up. It stops triggering you that something's wrong. And so then when that becomes the body's new norm, when dysfunction becomes our norm, that's when you get sleep apnea. The body's saying, psh, you don't care anymore. This thing's back there. So we're cool with it until it closes your airway and, you get those apneic events.
Interesting.
So that's kind of like a simple way to explain it.
And I like that there's holistic approaches. I think what I love is you are a dentist. You started noticing things. Most of the time, I feel like our great success stories come from when we've had it's specific to us, because then we understand, we can empathize. I started consulting because I could empathize with what it felt like to run a practice and not know what the heck I was doing. So I love that you found something that's a holistic approach. It doesn't require surgery, and yet you're able to help hundreds of people around. So Jasmine, tell us a little bit about, I know you're working with Airway Advocates. They are having you speak. Tell a little bit. I know it's on Facebook. We're in the virtual world right now. So if people want to attend, we're going to make sure we get this out to you guys so you can attend if you have a desire. Tell us a little bit about what you're speaking on and how people can register if they want to attend.
Yeah. So in that space, I'm actually not really the expert, Kiera. There are so many much more amazing experts that'll be talking
You're
that day.
speaking,
So
though. Remember me with Mark?
I am speaking.
You
I am
thought I was an
speaking.
expert.
I'm speaking about access to care, and I'm speaking about how we can expand services to all, and really pay attention to Airway for everyone. But yeah, so there's this breathe-a-thon. It's the first worldwide O2 day, and it's a 12-hour event to raise funds for raising awareness for these far-reaching effects that airway and breathing cause that we're still learning about, as far as globally. And so the website is globalo2day.com. I'm sorry, globalo2day.org. And if you go to globalo2day.org, you can get your free virtual ticket. They're asking for a $2 donation, and that money goes to increasing they have up there kind of all of it is going to, but it's about increasing awareness, because a small majority of the population, I call us a small majority because we're not a minority, because every day somebody's grabbing me on the street and mentioning how they can't breathe in their mask because of COVID. So now I call us a small majority, but there's a small majority of us that understand what's going on with airway and can connect the dots, but we want to increase awareness. There are so many chronic health conditions that can be prevented and reversed, in children who suffer from growth and development issues, learning difficulties, and behavioral issues that are stamped with this defective label that may stay with them for their entire lives. And airway could be something that can reverse everything for them and turn it around. So it's just about increasing awareness. There are experts in everything you could imagine that'll be speaking in that 12-hour event: practitioners, authors, researchers, success stories from patients. They're going to do some self-help tips to improve airway and breathing, which you just talked about, and they'll give a much better tips than I just did. Celebrities and entertainment leaders and everything will be there in this 12-hour event. So globalo2day.org. I'll have Kiera put it in the show notes. I don't know how podcasts work, but
yeah, Alex is on that for us. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But it's going to be a great event. This is the first global O2 day. And of course, they put it on October 2nd for O2. So
clever.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
I love it so much. Well, Jasmine, thanks for, I think the takeaways I had were making an efficient practice and having a systems run practice, and then having an efficient body that's also working, and not just, when you tied in the airway and the breathing, I was thinking when you said that when our bodies stop waking us up and we stop seeing it as a problem, and we just become almost complacent and start living with it, and we're also living a lower quality of life, I thought, gosh, that's a very similar tie back to the practices from the beginning of how often do we have these lower functioning practices and we've just accepted that, hey, well, I guess this is as good as it gets, when we're living so far below the potential we could have. So I love the loop around between the two different topics you brought on today. And thank you for just being a raving fan, one of my dearest friends. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for exposing us. And if people want to reach out to you specifically, Jasmine, they've got questions of how you incorporated airway into your practice, how could they contact you? Or if they want to know about working with the Dental Aid team, obviously.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, definitely. My website is aboutfacecollab.com. I'll have Kiera link that in the show notes. I think my email may be on there, but if not, my personal email that I'll check is drforbabyteeth@gmail.com. Haven't changed that yet because it's very popular.
It's the cutest one. And that's the number 4, Dr. 4 baby teeth. I think it's the cutest email.
babyteeth@gmail.com. Please email me. Kiera, you have my permission to share my cell phone number as people contact you individually. I'm just so passionate about this stuff. I could talk about it all day long. Please reach out. There were people who made themselves available to teach me when I didn't know. So I am more than willing to share what I know.
I love it. Jasmine, you're such a dear friend. You're so, when I told you don't start another practice yet, get this one done. And you were like, no, Kiera, I'm doing this. I'm going to Australia. I thought you were nuts, but I love the passion and the excitement. So thank you for sharing that. You guys, I hope you learned so much, whether it's from running an effective practice to incorporating Airway and the O2 conference that you can attend. I think there's just a lot of good nuggets. So Jasmine, as always, it's so fun to see you. It's fun to chat with you. And thank you for being a part of this today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Kiera.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Dental Aid Team podcast. All right, Dental Aid Team listeners, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening. And if you love today's podcast, go leave us a review. It takes you 5 seconds, and your review helps more offices, more practices, more team members just like you find out about the Dental team. Thank you guys so much for being part of my Dental team family.